wasn't just chitter chatter beforehand, or if we were ready to go.
Okay, we're ready to go.
Good, then we are warming up to go live. You're all set.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
All right, so this is the Marginal Way Committee meeting for Tuesday, September the 8th. Our roll call, Elaine Cooper is going to be taking the minutes at the start of the meeting, as our secretary is still at an appointment and will be arriving late to the meeting. And we are excusing Helen Horn, who is not able to make it today, and Kristen Arnold as well. So we were going to have our election of officers, but we'll wait until Paul comes. And so we're going to switch the agenda minute order. And Elaine Cooper submitted the minutes for our August 3rd meeting. And if everyone has had a chance to look at them, if you have any corrections, additions. Are there any additions? Otherwise, I'll ask for a motion to accept the August 3rd Marginal Way Committee minutes. If anybody would like to make a motion, I think
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
All right, so Gail Brother is making a motion to accept the minutes. Do I have a second? All right, second, Louisa. All right, very good. And if you can just raise your hands if we all approve the minutes. Okay, very good. All right, next, let's go to our treasurer's report with Gail Brother.
All right. So our budgeted amount for the year is $14,300. Last month, there had been $19.25 taken out in July, which was in error. It has been put back into our account. Although we've had some work done on the Marginal Way, no invoices have been paid to date. So as of August 31st, we still have our total budget remaining of $14,300. We also collect money from the lighthouse, and I thought I wrote that number down in front of me, but I did not. So while we're doing other things, I will get that. And when I do my next report, I will have that amount, but it was about $575. So
I was just going to say it was over $500, and that's a better collection. Now, do you know, Gail, was that just for, let's say, the last month? I don't know whether
that was from the end. They went the end of June, and then they went, I want to say, the second or third week in August.
All right. Okay. So we're talking maybe 6 weeks.
Right.
Okay.
Which is good because there was only like 300 and some odd dollars collected from all the way from last year to the end of June. Mm-hmm. We don't know if somebody else went in and took the money because we weren't really monitoring it. But now it's our money and it's going to us. So we don't know what happened before.
All right. So does Mandy, the town treasurer, go down with somebody, with a police officer?
No,
or is the police?
No, I have not been able to get anybody to do that. The police have been going alone.
Okay. All right. All right.
She talks to the police chief, and then he either goes or sends somebody.
Right.
Is what she told me.
All right. Very good. All right, for my report so far this month, there isn't too much new that's happened. We have, and Louisa, you'll be interested to know. Oh, Paul, you are here. I just see the top of your head. All right, it's like we've lost you down into the into the depths of your room. Do you want to start taking Elaine's? I advised her, that's better. Now we can see you. Elaine started the minutes. Do you want to take over and she can give you the roll call? And you're on mute. You have to unmute. There
How's
you go.
that?
Yes, that's better.
Your call, either way.
All right, why don't you go ahead and take the minutes? Elaine's been busy on other projects. I don't want to overload her, so she decides to run off
fine.
from the committee.
I'll get the roll call for her later.
Yes, yeah, okay, very good.
Thank you.
So back to the chair report. So we had a second treatment of swallowwort in front of the hotels, the Beachmere and the Anchorage again, because we had probably a 75% reduction in swallowwort there, but there was still persistent growth right along the chain link fence. So we went in, I think it's been 2 weeks ago, and we did a retreatment there, and it's slow acting. So it may not all be completely eradicated, but we're working hard to eliminate that, because that was truly a mother lode of swallowwort that was just headed south over a lot of the path. So we're hoping that that is taken care of. I don't think we'll be able to avoid one more treatment in the springtime in June again, but we should have a good part of that taken care of. And we also went up along the border of Beachmere on Locust Grove as well. And we also treated at the base all of the swallowwort that was growing in there. So that's a major, I think, accomplishment to get a lot of that taken care of. I had a very good meeting with the new president of the Preservation Board, Carol Leary, and also the new executive director, who I guess has started now officially, or Paul, does she start
Next Monday,
the 15th or something?
14th.
14th. Okay, so that's the coming up, right, on Monday. So Allison Ramsey is the new executive director, taking over from Jeannie Roach. And Paul, I guess we now have you as emeritus.
Yep.
Correct, on the committee, right?
I don't know what the job is. It's an interesting title.
Well, so you've had 10 years guiding the Preservation Fund, and they have honored you with your new title. That's very good. Excellent.
It's interesting. You know, we started with $20,000 and now we've got 1.1 million. And it's not because of me so much. It's because of generous donors and support from the membership and the town and, you know, all that stuff.
Right. But still, it's been, you know, a lot, your impetus and pushing and organizing it. So good job all around. That's very good.
Fun.
So Carol is, I had never met her before. I think she's going to be a fantastic asset to your committee. She very much, both she and Allison want to do this fall a walk with me, so that we go from one end to the other on the path. And we really explained to her all the projects that we're working on, and just generally give her an idea of what's going on with the path and why we're working so hard to preserve it. And they want to have better communications with us. And so I think generally it's going to be a very nice working relationship going forward. I had a meeting with, obviously a virtual meeting with Walsh Engineers last week. And that also was with Dave Riccio, the special project manager. They are working on the RFPs, but although they promised that they'd have them ready by the middle or end of this month, it's going to be a little bit longer, because apparently Walsh Engineers, were tasked with designing a whole new addition to the Abbott Laboratory. And so that has taken precedent over everything, and their whole office is working to get this addition put in so that Abbott Lab can make more test kits. And so that's what they've done. They apologized, but said they had no choice but to work on it. Now they are working full-time back on our project on the Marginal Way. We have one more virtual meeting with them this coming Monday to finalize a lot of the details of the RFPs. And then within, I'd say, another 10 days or so, it should be ready to go public and put out the ads for the bids and the proposals.
How many projects?
It'll be a combination of 6 projects. 3 of them are at the southern end of the path, close to the last access path before you get into Orweed Cove. We're actually probably going to be meeting down there too at some point. I'm not quite sure when, to go over with them. And this is going to affect you, Joyce, and probably Kathy Kopstein too, that they'll be using that access path whenever the construction work gets finished. One thing that they warned us about is that if they are flat out as engineers, and he said that all engineering companies are sort of going crazy with projects, the other problem we're going to have to deal with, that construction companies are also just overbooked. And so he was concerned about what our timetable was for these projects. And I said that if we could start maybe some of the stonework, they're going to work on the revetment that is right at the bottom of the South Fraser Pasture access path, where as that access path comes down and joins the walk, if you look across, there are some, well, one would say scruffy vegetation, but behind that vegetation, that whole embankment has collapsed and is in the process of collapsing. And that part is going to have pinned large rocks put in there and built up to hold that embankment and then support the walkway. So what we ideally would like to do is have a construction company work on that in the wintertime after the crowds have gone. And then we have 2 large walls to go in down at that end as you go northward on the path. And those, I said that if they have to work on them in the springtime, fine, as long as they finish by, let's say, June 15th. So the RFP is going to include 2 kinds of work, sort of earth or stone work, large stone work, getting that in place and pinned, and then also masonry work, building the walls. In addition to that, we've added, because it's such a small project, working on 3 sites in the middle section, south of Devil's Kitchen. We have benches 22, a pair of benches 23 and 24, and bench 25, where outside of the platforms, we had a lot of erosion. And so what they hope to do in the plan is that they will, again, take smaller rock, pin it into the bedrock, and then they can fill in gravel to come up and match the cement platforms so that that stops that erosion and breakdown there. So that's, I haven't seen the RFP yet. A lot of it has to do with all the bonding, and Dave Riccio had to send them all the requirements that the town requires for insurance, for all the liability, the bonding and things like that. So he's given them those documents and they've added into their package, and we will see. By next week, I should have something in writing from them that we can look at. So that's all that's happening with the repairs. And I have very good news that finally Joyce Fletcher has submitted her application to join the committee. Finally, yay, good. And I'm assuming that certainly by maybe the next select board meeting, they will have set up an appointment to have their interview with you. I don't know
I
how
haven't heard
much.
anything, but
Okay. I mean, tonight I think is a different kind of a meeting, so that doesn't really count. I think next week will be their regular select board meeting, and I'm hoping that they will schedule beforehand to get you, have the interview and get you voted in. That'll be great. So,
I got a question.
yes, go ahead.
Remember we deferred the work on the collapse and the embankment at the beach there when we got all these other overriding projects?
Yes.
And the idea was that Walsh will prepare an RFP eventually. What's going on there?
I would say that there's nothing going on there, and you'll get an idea why tonight at that select board meeting, because the town manager has proposed a few of the many CIP projects for the select board to approve. And I don't even know how many of those may get approved, just money wise, if they don't think they can afford it.
So it's a budgetary thing, you told me.
It's a completely budgetary thing, right? And I
Okay.
think that I mean, I don't know how long this is going to last, but it certainly is going to affect them going into next spring and the budget for 21, 22 as
Sure.
well. So I think we're just going to have to sit on it
Okay.
until somebody says that we're now solvent again, and you know we can handle some of the bigger CIP projects, because that certainly isn't anything that can be covered from FEMA. Now the work that we're going to be doing now is all work that, in a sense, has been paid for in advance by FEMA. So we
Right.
have the funds for that, and that's in its own dedicated account. And so that will come out of that. The only thing the town will be having to do is put in their 10%.
Sure. Well,
So-
remember, that was like a $60,000 to $80,000 project, so it's not chicken feed.
No, it's not. It's probably actually going to be more than that. I have a feeling. I mean,
Well,
we're
but
going
if
to
it gets
get,
up that high, it doesn't matter.
right. It's going to be more than that, I can tell you, by the time we get done. And Walsh is going to give us by next week an estimate, an engineering estimate. And he just said, don't hold me to it, because what the contractors are coming back and asking for now, because they're so booked, is a lot more, unfortunately.
Of course.
So we'll just have to wait and see what happens there. Okay, let's go back to an election of our officers for the coming year. Since we go year by year and we just assume that we're all sticking to the same jobs. So does anybody, and I'm not quite sure how to handle this since we've never ever done it in all the years I've been on this committee. Does anybody want to volunteer for a job? Would anybody like to nominate someone else for a position? And we can start with being the chair of the committee and work our way down.
You're doing a great job, Joan.
Is that supposed to be a motion to?
To keep you.
But the problem is that Joan is the only person in this committee that's intimate with the details of doing the FEMA thing. And it would be irresponsible. Well, if she doesn't want to do it, that's one thing. But I think it would be a real burden on somebody else to try to get up to speed on it.
Right. No,
Well, the chairperson doesn't actually have to do FEMA, because that could be a job given to somebody. But I still think that Joan should keep the job because she does it very well.
I agree.
All right. I don't know whether we're making this official or what we're doing, because since we've never handled this before, and I have no idea what Robert's rules says on any of this.
Here it is. I'll make a motion to nominate Joan Griswold as chair for the next year.
All
I
right.
second the motion.
Okay. Why don't we have a vote? All in favor can raise their hands. I can't vote for myself, so I guess that's all right. 4, so it's 4 4-0, we'll say.
4-0
All right, thank you. Paul, are you all right staying as secretary? Or
Sure, if you want me. It's, I've done it for a while.
I know you have. Is there
Anybody
any?
who wants to do it is welcome to it. How's that?
I know it's probably one of the worst jobs, I think. Louisa, you're on mute. Unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I nominate Paul Breen as secretary.
All right, very good. Is there a second? Elaine seconds it. All right, all in favor? All right, Paul, you still have the job until you say you refuse.
Fine.
Um,
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Gail, do you still accept being the treasurer?
I do. I finally have all the numbers unraveled.
All right. Since Gail just became really, several months ago, I think we're just going to go on the assumption that you will continue with your job because you have just learned it. You have a good working relationship with the town treasurer now. She's sending you regularly, monthly, which she had never done before.
Without even being asked now.
Yes, which is very good. So,
No,
Louisa.
Joan, let's follow Robert's rules and nominate Gail to be our treasurer.
All right, very good. Is there a second?
Second.
Paul Breen seconds. All right, everybody in favor, raise your hands. Gail, you are our official treasurer. All right, excellent. So we are in business again. Elaine sent out to old business the revision to some of the work that we did last month at our workshop. And I think all we're going to cover today is to just go over the standards. And she added and corrected different words. And I think, has everyone had a chance to look through that? Paul, you made a comment in an email, and we're actually, the note at the end of it was more a comment, but it's not going to be part of the standards.
The only thing I wanted to comment was a lot of these things have been put to bed, and you and I have gone through this with the political side of it. I hate to bring up something if there isn't a reason, if you know what I mean.
Correct. All right. And I think, Elaine, you were just mentioning it or putting the comment in.
It was just for discussion purposes. It wasn't to be printed in anything. It was just to remind people to have that discussion. That was all.
All right. Okay. Go ahead, Louisa.
Did you get my email about the suggestions for the mission statement?
Yes, I did. And I was going to go over that now. I just want to be sure on one thing. On section 4, where we talk about the paved width, are we all agreed that we want this to say the maximum 5-foot width rather than the minimum? Because I do believe we have always said we never wanted to widen the paving. And the path literally has a foot of gravel on either side for people to step off. So we're certainly talking, in almost every case, it's 7 feet of width that people can step away or get around others. So I think it is substantial enough, because if we allow it to get wider and wider, you're just going to have a highway down the edge of the ocean. So we'll keep it at a maximum of 5 foot. Okay, that was the one thing I thought that is a bit of a change, and I like it, and I think it sort of preserves what the walk is. Now, to go back to mission statements. I think everybody saw that Helen was sending back emails in bold because she very much likes her original mission statement. And I agree that it is very good, what I would like to do, and I said this last time, is to name what we have here as far as the habitat and the ledges. And so what I'm proposing, and it's a combination of what Louisa sent me and Helen and mine, and this is still for discussion, and we can finalize this at the workshop in 2 weeks. But that what we say is, first, the mission is to protect, maintain, and preserve the marginal way, a unique example of a wild, natural, maritime shrubland habitat and the exposed coastal ledges of the Kittery Formation. The marginal way possesses such a strong impact of nature, it is inherently beautiful. There is no need to embellish it further. I mean, it names the habitat and everything. It includes Helen's original part of her mission statement in here. And I think it's enough. Louisa had talked about erosion from storms and pedestrians and invasive species, but I think I found another place to talk about that, which I'll explain later. So I think if we talk about naming it, this is for someday when there are people that are on this committee that don't even really know what they have, in a way. I mean, I just want to be sure that that we've named something. Somebody can refer to what is this maritime shrubland. They can reference it within the state of Maine. It's described in Maine habitat documents. I went to, Hussey's book, his geology book, and just put in there the coastal ledges because that's the way he describes it. He doesn't talk about what kind of rock it is, but this is so unique that I think that we need to remind people that this is what makes this place so special, the habitat and the geology. So that's why I want to actually include them in the mission statement. Louisa?
Yeah, I just wanted to, the only reason I put my comments in was to expand on why we protect it, why we maintain it, and why we preserve it.
Right.
And we have nothing in here. I really think that we maintain it. The reason we maintain it as a legacy for the people of Ogunquit and all who walk the path. Otherwise, we wouldn't bother maintaining it. It wouldn't be for anybody. But I think including the people of Ogunquit who own it and pay for it, a good part of it is is just identifying why we maintain it, why we bother having a committee. That's all. But if you want that somewhere else, that's fine. And then I just wanted to, why do we preserve it? Why do we protect it? And I just threw those ideas in.
Right. All right. Let me put this together again in one thing and send it out to the committee, and we'll finalize and approve what we want for the change in the mission statement at the workshop going forward. I will put together, and I will try to talk with Helen to be sure that she approves of these alterations to hers, and we'll go from there. Are there any other, if you have any other ideas for how you want to, if you want to write up your own version of a mission statement, please go ahead. I can send all these comments out. You can look at them and you can try to wordsmith it some more. But I think Helen was concerned that we were getting too wordy, and she just felt that her description was succinct and to the point. But I will send this all out unless anybody else has any other suggestions now. Joyce.
Yeah, I don't have any other suggestions. I just want to say that I think the two things are very important. The naming the habitat,
yeah,
as you have. And then when Helen made her comment, I realized that it is very important, the phrase about not embellishing it any further, because I think there might be a tendency, or, why can't we improve this or make it look fancy or whatever? And I myself have thought sometimes the changes that were made were unnecessarily embellishing, and making it look sort of like New York rather than the natural marginal way. So when I read Helen's comment, I thought it really is important that that be in there, because it communicates something, I think, very unique about the preservation of the path.
Right. I agree with you that we don't want people to think that they're turning this into a manicured landscape. I think we are trying to, I put in wild natural. Okay, obviously it's not really wild. The only thing that's growing wild is all the bittersweet. Everything else is struggling, but it's always come with that sense that you're coming into a little slice of wildness and naturalness. And the booklets that were written back in the 60s by Dr. Reverend Goodwin, I mean, that's all he talked about, was that it was wild and wonderful. And so we're trying to do that as best they can without altering the whole character of what we're trying to maintain. So I agree that the idea of the not embellishing it, and in a way, that's what I've also believed when we were members of Leave No Trace. It was a sense, we don't need hundreds of cairns. We don't need, all these extra things that humans try to do to mark everything that, they've been there. A human has been here and a human has been there. So I think, let me work on this. I'll send it out. You can edit to your heart's content, and we'll finalize it at the second workshop.
Joan?
Yes.
If people are interested, I found an interesting, it's a Maine Geological Survey. It was done in 2012, and it talks about the coastal ledges of Kittery Formation, granite and basalt, and East Point Sanctuary, Bedford Pool. So if people want to read more about what the actual rocks are, that's a good little publication.
Right. And also I think, what Louisa, you were the one who made the copies of, I think, right, of the original book of Hussey?
No, he published them. Look inside. It should say who the publisher is.
Right, but this is a copy. This is a paper copy that somebody gave to me about 2 years ago, because I think this is out of print now.
It is, yeah.
I thought it was, maybe it was Helen that went to Staples and had this printed up. I don't know whether the library has it, but this is, sort of the Bible of what this, apart from the sign that's down on the marginal way, of what the Kittery formations are.
I've got a copy of it. Do other members of the board have copies of it?
I don't know.
Does Paul? Paul, do you have a copy of that?
I don't have a copy.
Well, okay, so maybe sometime I can take this apart and take it down to Staples, and I'll get some extra copies made. Because it's fascinating.
Is there anything about reproduction rights in that? Is it registered?
I can't tell you. I don't know. It was printed back in 2000 in Freeport. All right. No part of this may be reproduced. I think you can go, okay, Staples won't do it, but if you copy it yourself, you can do it. They will not. Isn't that what happens with a copyright? So if I go in and use a machine, I'm allowed to copy it. All right. So I'll see what I can do to get some extra copies. So we need 4 copies. Yes, it's just Louisa and myself. Okay. And I'll have to see if the library actually carries it as well. Okay, next, we have an idea that has come from Gail Brother about smoking, and she sent you a draft letter. So Gail, I'm going to let you go forth on this idea.
Okay, so Since I started picking up trash on the marginal way, which I do about weekly, I've noticed an unbelievable amount of cigarette butts. And I have a pet peeve of people smoking in public around me. So I just want to get some feedback from the committee to see if anybody wants to pursue having this done. They did do in 2010, it was put to a town vote to ban smoking on all beaches. And part of it too was because of the butts that there's no place to put it. There's no receptacles anywhere on the marginal way. And it's a long way and people smoke and they just flick their butt wherever they are. So I just want to put it out there. If anybody wants, I wrote this. We can, you know, you're welcome to edit it, make any changes, but only if as a committee, we decide this is something that we all want.
Louisa, go ahead. I'll let you start.
We used to have, what were those little butt boxes we had attached to the trash barrels? Do you remember those, Paul?
Yes.
But is there a sign on the little beach that says no smoking? Because that's included, should be included in the town no smoking restriction. There should be a sign up right there at the top of the little beach, no smoking.
I don't know. I
Neither
live
do
right
I.
there, but I don't know.
So
But
anyway,
funny because the article that I got all this information from specifically listed Main Beach, Footbridge Beach, and North Beach. Did not say anything about Little Beach or Mother Beach.
okay, so I think we ought to propose a no smoking ban on the marginal way in the little beaches to the Board of Selectmen.
Right. If we're going to do this, we might as well add the little beaches,
Right,
right?
and I'll check the signs because I literally live right there. So I'll check to see if it says anything about smoking.
Okay. Do we all agree that that would be a good move?
Any other comments? Anybody have any other opinions?
My only opinion is, I agree. There's a lot of cigarette butts. There's also a lot of dog poo. You know, we have a hard enough time trying to get people to follow the damn rules we got now. And if, you know, if the town wants to put a town employee, it can't be a volunteer and write tickets for people. I think that's fine. If you aren't going to do that, I think it's a feel-good thing, unfortunately.
Well, I
And by
think
the way, you have to put up
there's no
another
down.
sign. You
I
know,
think there's no downside, even if people still smoke, it might, even if it cuts it down 50%, you're cutting down 50% of the problem.
Is there any problem? Because I don't go to Main Beach. I mean, does anybody know? I mean, is that sort of taken care of now by having that ordinance, or whether that,
only the lifeguards that do it.
right?
So during the rest of it's 9 months a year, it isn't enforced unless somebody calls somebody.
Right, right. Well,
I haven't seen any cigarette butts this year walking it.
That's because I've picked them up.
she's very good
And I'm
about
going to
all
tell
that.
you, I was out this morning and I picked up a lot of cigarette butts.
Okay, so I told you, you need to take have you got a photograph of all that? You need to photograph your little pile of the cigarette butts and say this is like 1 or 2 days worth.
Well, it all goes into one communal bag. I don't have a bag just for cigarette butts. But today my biggest offender was actually outside the beach mirror. Somebody dragged the top of a trash can and left it by one of the benches by the beach mirror. And all weekend I wanted to move it, but there were just so many people. I left it. And this morning when I went out, I said, okay, that's the first thing I'm going to do. And it was filled to the brim with trash. And it got so heavy that some woman took pity on me and helped me drag it to the trash can. And we left it there for the town. I don't know how it got there. I don't know why somebody put it there.
Oh gosh, you should have called us and we would have come down and taken it away.
It was not on your property, it was on the marginal way. It's just
Right.
as a point of reference, that just
Right.
happened to have been where it was.
Right. Well, Elaine, how do you feel about it? Do you support this idea?
I absolutely support any idea that helps to stop smoking. I agree, it's very difficult to enforce any kind of thing that we do, but over the years, there is less and less smoking that happens even during the winter on Main Beach. You don't see too many cigarette butts. People have gotten used to not smoking there. So I think anything that we can do to lessen the potential of smoking helps. But you have to present this to the select board.
Yep.
It's not just a letter, you probably have to put together a little packet. And if you had pictures of all the cigarette butts around benches and things like that, it would help.
I think better than a picture is you ought to bring a bag of dirty cigarette butts. I
There
mean,
you go.
this is you're trying to make a point.
Right.
People don't pay attention to pictures. They pay attention to a bag full of butts.
Well, but she's going to have to have.
Okay, I will use a separate bag for butts next time I go out there.
That's fine.
Save them up because I don't think you have time to get it on this year's town
Right.
meeting.
No, we don't.
Should we
Louisa?
should we look around and see if, say, York has a no smoking ban on their beach, or I mean,
Okay.
who has
Gail, are you willing to do a little research, comparative research?
Well, I don't know what difference it makes. I think just the fact that we have no smoking on the beach because there's no place to put the butts was one of the things that I read. It's the same thing on the marginal way. There's no place to put your butts, and there's no place to distance from people walking when you're smoking.
Correct. Right.
I got that terminology from COVID. One good thing to come out of COVID.
Joyce, go ahead. You have to unmute. Unmute.
Muted. So
There.
would the goal be that if that got approved, that on the one sign that lists all the things not to do on the marginal way, no dogs from this, you would just add no smoking to that list?
Well,
And all you need to do is add a little square that they can add right onto the sign with a cigarette with a no smoking thing. I don't even think you need to change the sign. Just add a little, little thing to it.
Yeah, the circle with the line.
somewhere you'd have to, right, because the signs are too expensive to get them all remade just for that.
Right.
I think I agree. I think it's worth pursuing, and people learn. It may not cut it 100%, but it's no different than what's happened with how people have adopted wearing masks and how that's gone from maybe 30% in June to now probably 85% or higher. I mean, it sort of depends on the timing. One of my walkers walked on Sunday, I think it was, early in the morning, and said that it was back to like only 50%, which surprised me. But most of the time when I look, I see everybody has a mask on. And that now is just taken. Now you're almost more pressure on you if you don't have a mask on because everybody else is wearing them. So in time, just the way the whole country smoked 20 years ago, they're not smoking now. So I think it's worth presenting this to the select board. Go ahead, Louisa.
It's very difficult to follow the rules and wear a mask on the marginal way and smoke at the same time.
Well, yes.
They're
And you're
doing
right.
it though.
It's no different than seeing somebody with their coffee mug, so their mask is down under their chin as they're sitting, chugging away, walking by, a whole line of people.
Hey, my grandchildren who are 6 and 8 were eating candy on the marginal way, and every time somebody came close to them, they took their lollipop or whatever they had and put their mask up, and they had no problem eating and having a mask when there were people around.
All right.
And they're
Well,
6 and 8, so an adult can do it too.
Well, we have time because Louisa is correct that there's no way they're trying to finalize everything that goes on the warrant for when? For November. So we're going to work on this for June. We can put together evidence, a package of your letter. If people have any edits that they want to make to your letter, they can send them back to you then to see whether you want to
Sure.
incorporate
Yep.
them.
So also, don't we have somebody that is our liaison to the select board?
Yes, it's
Isn't it,
Lindsay? Yes, Lindsay.
Right,
Perry.
so can I like contact Lindsay and tell her that we would like to pursue this? What does she recommend that we do?
Yeah, you can find out what she says going forward. I think that the one thing that we are planning on is I'm hoping in January, in October, after we have finalized some more decisions and organized ourselves at our workshop, then we will be going before the select board and having a meeting talking about our priorities and what we're looking to do going forward. And it's there that I'd like to present this idea of the smoking to them.
Perfect.
I mean, you can send it to Lindsay and get her recommendations of what you need to do or what we as a committee need to do to present this proposal to them. And then we at least know what to be prepared for and what other documents that they want or anything like that. But I think that the reason they're having their meeting tonight is desperately to meet the deadline to get things onto the warrant for November. So there's no point in our trying to rush this through now. I think they have enough going on. But
it sounds like a good plan.
Yeah. So you'll take care of all of that. That's excellent. Let's see. Okay. Elaine, would you have anything that you would like to talk about for the historic designation? These multiple categories that are possibilities for the marginal way.
The marginal way would probably be eligible for 3 levels of designation. They probably would never become a historical landmark for the country. Right. There's very few that qualify for that. But we could potentially be on the National Historic Preservation and the state and the local. I contacted Michael Goebel-Bain at the State Preservation Office, and he talked about that he felt that we would be eligible for national designation. And reason being is we've already been reviewed 3 times through FEMA. And the stringent review that FEMA does would be very similar to the stringent review that the National Preservation Commission does. So he felt that if we were interested, we should move forward. And the only restrictions on the care of the marginal way would be if we had FEMA damage in the future, we'd have to follow all the things that we've been following already with the 2018 damage.
What's the downside of getting designated? Besides the
good question.
He didn't see any downside because he feels that the committee can continue to do everything that it's done. And he feels that it would just be a matter of whether you want to go through doing all of the application. So what I did was pull the application that we went through for the Ogunquit Playhouse. So I have all of the information that they went through, all of the research that you have to do on any particular spot, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I have a book that I've found that talks you through that process, and there's all kinds of standards and everything that the government has printed that talk about all the steps that you go through. So if we determined that we wanted to get it on national preservation, we can do that. I know the Historic Preservation Committee and what of it is going to be left after the select board goes through what it's going through right now, I'm not sure, but we were looking to do many more local historic, and marginal way would be on that list.
And what would be the benefit? Paul asked about the downside, but what would be the benefit of having this?
It's something that you're required to take care of for the rest in perpetuity. It has to be kept up. You
So
can't.
are there any specifics of do's or, well, let's say don'ts that we would not be allowed to do. I guess I'm concerned as much about what are the advantages as to
Back
would
in,
they restrict us even more than, let's say, the town does? Like you're not allowed to cut below a certain height on shoreline, districts and all kinds of things that Helen was always very concerned that this would really make it difficult for us to make our own decisions about how we take care of the marginal way.
Look at this as another level of approval that you must get before you do anything. And
didn't feel that
I haven't gone, oh, wait a minute, I haven't gone through the DEP approval, and so is Joan. This is a non-trivial layer that you add on to anytime you want to do anything. That doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. But I mean, once you get in that box, you're not able to get out of the box so much.
what he said was the level of information that you would have to go through would be very similar to what we just went through on FEMA to get it designated.
Well, it sounds like that's a bad idea. I mean,
People-
we lose our freedom to do things. And by the way, I think the upside is it gives the businesses in the town an ability to market. That's the sort of thing that attracts more people. So there's a good thing to this.
Yeah.
But
Well, do we
just
want to
because
attract any more people? I don't know.
well, but just because the fellow in charge of the National Historic Preservation tells us everything's going to be fine, that doesn't make me feel necessarily good.
I know
Maybe it's,
in 2007, they talked about doing this and they stopped it because they felt that they would have some issues.
Right.
So
I remember
all I did was research what the people were saying, and there's the 3 different levels we can go through. And even just putting it on the local preservation list would make the businesses be able to say that this is a historic preservation site for our community. So again, I researched how we do it and what happened. And down the line, it could change what the expectations are of what we do.
Okay, I guess here's what I would like to find out, and then I'll get to you, Louisa. I will. Could you put together on just, is there enough information that we could have a list of the pros and the cons?
Okay.
Even the cons, how expensive is this? Because I know that we know people in Connecticut that are going through this on their home, and having a professional write up this document that's presented to this is just for the state historic preservation thing, is a very expensive proposition. And
I know
apparently it takes a professional, or they're using a professional to do it, who's having to delve back into the whole history of the property and, back to past colonial times.
Mhm. That's done more extensively on buildings.
Okay.
Landmarks is not quite as extensive a research project, but as I said, I haven't gone into all the things. I have the information on how you do it,
Right.
and I can look more into that part of it.
Okay. Louisa.
I think it's more of a prestigious thing. I mean, it's very prestigious to have this, and it sort of makes the whole thing a little upscale. Now, whether it attracts more tourists, I can't speak. But I've only been involved. Wait, is the library a National Historic Designated Building?
Yep, the library is the Colonial Inn, the Goodale Stevens House and the Goodale Bourne House up on North Village Road, the Charles Perkins property on Main Street, the Wynn House, and
Yeah, and also St. Peter's churches, and I was active in that. It was only about a 3-page document, and they came down from the state and looked it over, and that was it. We never paid any money. We got
All right.
the only money we paid was framing the certificate.
Well, that's good to know.
it's well worth pursuing.
Okay, if you don't mind, if you've got the time, Elaine, with everything else, just look into it a little further to be sure. As Paul's saying, we're not putting ourselves into a quagmire of complexity going forward. Let's say, and I could have Dave Riccio also check with the FEMA and the NEMA people to see if we had a designation, does that complicate it from their side of it? I'm just looking forward to the next storm somewhere down the road so that we don't tie our hands. That's all.
Good point.
Joyce, go ahead. You mute. You're on mute. Unmute.
Okay. Our businesses asking for this. It just seemed to me, it's not clear to me what the benefit is, especially since there already are so many things in Ogunquit that do qualify, that give us whatever prestige we're going to have. So I was just asking, has there been a groundswell, our businesses or the chamber or somebody asking for this because they think that it's going to increase business or be a revenue producer?
I mean, I only brought it up to see whether it would have any advantages to protect us, to protect the marginal way for any reason. I don't know against what, but I just want to know whether in somehow it ensures preserving it, if at some point it would help us get funds from some sources. I don't know. I just want to know what the advantages and the disadvantages would be.
By the way, if this organization has a grant abilities that we could get money out of it, that's a substantial benefit, because it's hard to get money out of anybody to do anything.
Right.
There is a grant program that's separate from the actual designation. I'm not sure if it relates to land designations.
Or buildings.
It's a program that relates very specifically to buildings, but I'll check that out also.
Good.
Louisa?
Yeah, I'm wondering if this would duplicate what the Historic Preservation Committee has in mind. We don't want to step on their toes, and if they were planning to designate areas of the town, if this should be coordinated with them rather than us going off on our own.
It wouldn't necessarily go off on your own, because both committees would have input into this. I know our committee is trying. They've just gone through grading all the pre-1930s homes in Ogunquit, and they designated them as low, medium, and high significance to the town. We have an issue with the way our ordinance and our municipal code has been written for the Historic Preservation Commission. They don't exactly match, and there's some discrepancy in terms of the way the ordinances are written for design review. That in one way, we have a district of 6 different tax map areas in town that they've designated as the capital D districts, shall we say, for historic preservation. But more than 50% of our historic, what we consider the significant historic homes, are outside of that area. So what the committee was trying to do was put together this whole list of homes and properties that should be looked at for historic preservation, local preservation, not necessarily national estate, because many people don't want that designation because it restricts them from what they can do to the home. So we're attempting to put that together. We're attempting to update the ordinances, and we've just gotten a roadblock. And so I don't even know if I will still be on the committee, because the town attorney has said I can't be on both of the committees, her opinion, and there are some other issues going on. So I don't know how strong the committee is going to be after next week's select board meeting. So we shall see. But we're attempting to do all of that, and we would obviously make, if it's the marginal way, we would make the marginal way committee very much part of it. But there's so many homes being taken down in the town that have historic or cultural significance to us that we're not able to do anything about, because they're not in the capital D district. For example, 107 Stearns Road, I don't know if anybody's been by it, but they just took down what was Nancy Perkins' house, which is probably the most iconic example of a turn of the century cottage on Stearns Road. It was just allowed to be demolished. 80 River Road, the white building that's along the river. It's probably, if you talk to many people, they'll say, oh, that's my favorite house on the river. That one's being taken down right now. And there's possibility that 66 Pulpit Rock Road, when it sells, will be taken down. So because they're not in the big D district. So we're trying desperately to get the town to pay attention to what its development habits are doing to the town itself.
Right. Wow. So you've got that's a lot of work to pull that off and change the ordinances.
We actually have updated them. We were just waiting for SMPDC to take a look at it and everything,
Right.
but we're getting ready to present those. We thought we might make this ballot, but we won't go till next year, but
All right.
doing most of that work.
Well, when you get the time, if there are other things that come up, because this is also another long range project, but let's keep on this to figure out what, if there would be a significant advantage, and also what problems, as I said, to that would limit us in any way.
Okay.
And then we can make a decision pending that. All right, next on the agenda, people counter again. Ms. Brother.
All right. So the people counter for August for this year, we had 62,993 people counted. In 2019, for the month of August, we had 83,768. So that was 75% of the people this year as opposed to last year. I also, out of curiosity, this morning went and tallied up for Labor Day weekend to compare the two, because it seemed like there were an awful lot of people here.
Right.
I mean, it seemed to me like it was 100%, but it turns out that this year we had 8,482 people between Saturday and Monday. And in 2019, we had 9,875 between Saturday and Monday. And so that's 86% of the people this year as compared to last year. So I thought that was pretty good.
Right, and interesting, on Monday's numbers, you've got 500 more people on Monday.
It's probably weather related.
Right. So, well, they should be happy, and if that happened at the beach, then their parking revenues at least should be going up a bit.
And I talked to one of the store owners, I think Sunday, and they were very happy with the amount of people in Perkins Cove and shopping. So that was good.
So they've stopped charging at the beach.
What?
1st of September. There was no charging at the beach the 1st of September, because I drive down there to park to walk.
I think they ought to change that. We need every dollar we can get. I think that September should be charged, for God's sake. I didn't realize that.
It's because
Are you sure?
The lifeguards aren't there anymore. They don't charge. No, I'm not sure of anything, but I just observed that.
What time do you walk?
All right, we're going to have to check on that, because they need to change, and we need money in September for the parking. All right, that's not our responsibility, but we'll have to look into that, I think. Did everybody have a chance? I sent out the code of ethics, and with new members on board since last year, what I would like to do is the town wants everybody to sign the code. So if you have read the 10 pages, well, the 9 pages, the last page is signatures only, of the code of ethics, what I would like you to do is to take the last page, print it off, sign it, scan it, and send it back to me so that I can put all the signatures together and hand it in. What I might do is wait until Joyce is officially on the committee. And so that you have, you know, that you are considered a full committee member in order to sign this. But then I'll send it in to the town clerk so that that's taken.
We have to do it again if we've
Pardon?
already done.
Well,
Paul and you and I have probably done it.
That's right.
I know you have, but they sent this out to me to all the committees, commissions, and boards to do. So I guess we're doing it again, if you don't mind. Okay. So, all right, that takes care of that piece of business.
You know, I
Yes.
don't even know if I'm still on the committee because I never got any notice.
Yeah, they put
On
you
the committee.
in the last meeting.
You and I got approved and our renewal was accepted. Kristen Arnold got accepted as, I think that's right. I suppose, I haven't heard from anybody, but we have to go in and sign something at the town clerk's office.
You have to swear,
Right,
you swear in.
yeah.
Do we have to do that every year?
No.
No, only on your renewal anniversary. So you have to do it again. I have to go in and Kristen Arnold has to go in as well. Right.
Why don't they let you do that?
Pardon?
You think they'd let you know that?
Yeah.
You would, but what can I can't. I am not in charge of the town. We'll have to figure these things out ourselves. All right.
Okay.
Next on the agenda is a topic about the Seaside Garden. So I had a phone call from a prospective donor who would like to cover some of the expenses of maintenance for just the Seaside Garden. And I am in the process now of writing an MOU, a memorandum of understanding. And I have to send this to Pat Finnegan and have her take a look at it before this goes sort of more public. And then I will send it to the donor. So what I have done in the memorandum is to explain the background of the garden and then to talk in effect about how we maintain the garden now. And I have, in addition to that, written a 2-page, I don't know, description of what I think of is ecological gardening for, and I hate using the term gardening, but how we're maintaining or managing the wild, naturalistic landscape of the Marginal Way. Because I want to be sure that while the donor has offered to take on these expenses, and he has requested that we use patent landscaping, which is fine with me because he has used it before. So I don't think the committee would have any objection to that. He would prefer to use them as he uses them personally in his own landscaping. But that I just want to be sure that we're all on the same page as far as the level of care that we use in the garden, which is more naturalistic, that we leave things, we take out the invasive plants, we weed so that bad things don't come in and overwhelm the garden. But we want it to look natural and we don't want it over manicured. So I'm in the process, bless you,
Thank you.
of writing up a list of how we manage the garden, that it does not need extra water because it's made, the plants were chosen to be dry and take the kind of environment that we have now. And if this is approved by Pat, and if this meets the approval of the donor, then by next month, we will have this all formalized and we'll sign this memorandum of understanding. And if this meets with everybody's approval, then we would go forward, hopefully on an annual basis, that this person would be willing to.
This is really a good thing, Joan. And you've
Yeah.
done a heck of a lot of work on it.
Right,
And see what the details are.
exactly. Louisa?
Yep. Would this person use the original plant list?
Yes, well, this would be, in every way, what I have stressed is the Marginal Way Committee is completely in charge of this. The donor would send this donation to the town. It would go into the beautification fund. The town treasurer, and Gail would also keep track of this, that anything that is done in the seaside garden, let's say when Patton goes in and weeds, he sends me the invoice. I have to sign off on all the invoices. Then that goes to Mandy, the town treasurer. She takes it out of that. She's going to have make a special little category within the beautification fund that's just for the seaside garden. And then it would come out of that. So that we're in control of what happens on the garden. We say what kind of maintenance takes place on the garden and when. And if I need to go in with Steve Brook and take care of invasive plants or bittersweet, I can do that. So he would just be covering the cost.
Would he also be covering the cost of replacing plants that have died or aren't suitable for where they are?
We're not there yet, but it would be possible. I mean, I think we're talking about maintenance now, and depending on what we, would want to do in that garden, if we want to add more shrubs where needed, that might be open for negotiation.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking of places that just die out from year to year. I mean, gardens don't last forever. You have to keep replanting. And would you say, is this going to be a year-to-year project that we approve?
I don't know that we have settled on that it is annual yet. They have offered this donation for this year, for the fiscal year of 21. Yeah, this calendar year that we're in now, 21. What are we in? 2021.
Does this person get along with Mr. Griffin, who owns the property behind?
Yes. So I think that what I am asking for today is a vote from the committee to allow me to negotiate and present an MOU to the town manager and to the donor. And we negotiate to make this work out for all parties, and can go forward with the signing.
I second the motion.
You can do that in the next month, and that would be all set. We wouldn't have to talk about it anymore. Go ahead.
Yeah, if the donor was willing, could you put a clause in the end that it could be renewed on an annual basis at the donors will, without going through all this board stuff?
Right. Yeah, I would try to do that.
Sounds great.
So I think it'll be a very good thing for the committee. It saves us. I mean, we cut our budget tremendously this year. And so it's put a lot of constraint on the projects that we can work on. So this will help a great deal. I think it would be an excellent benefit for the town and for the committee. So could I get an approval or a motion to allow me to negotiate and sign this if we get to that point before having to come back to the committee for a special meeting?
I think you've already made a motion, so I'll second your motion. Aren't you allowed to make motions?
No, I think somebody else has to make a motion. You can.
You, Gail?
All right, I'll make a motion
You can say
Or
so
you-
moved to what Joan said and then
So,
some.
so moved. I will make a motion to what you said.
All right, thank you.
I'll
A second?
I'll second.
Elaine seconds. All right. Can I have a show of hands approval? All right, so we're unanimous. All right, 5-0. All right, thank you all very much. I think that's going to be fantastic if we can get this all to work. Secondly, next, or shall I say, we're going to have our workshop on the 21st, and I had sent you before a spreadsheet and sort of listed under categories of softscape and hardscape and everything, all the different jobs and responsibilities that we have. And Joyce had taken a stab at reorganizing and sort of just changing how I look at it, because I generally do look at the softscape and the hardscape, and that's the way I see the marginal way. But Joyce, would you like to give a preliminary explanation of what you tried to do in redesigning subcommittees and all? And I think what I really want to do is that then you're going to send something out, and this is going to be a topic for discussion at the workshop. But I thought if you'd like to do a preliminary explanation of what you were trying to, how you were trying to reorganize the committee to be more effective.
Yeah, I can. I think it might be more effective if people actually had the document. So it might be better to wait wait until the workshop.
Sure.
I don't
We
have
can.
that workshop on my calendar. It was scheduled for September 21st
Right.
at this time, like 3 o'clock or?
Yes, at 3 o'clock.
All right. So I can just say I'll send it out, or I guess, Joan, you would send it out, but I was trying to organize 4 committees so that as we recruit new members, we could ask them where they might want to be involved. And the 4 committees were the first one, sort of I named it Coastal Native Shrubland, trying to use the same language Joan did, but that would be a person who would oversee things like the pod picking day, a goat grazing day, any restoration projects, anything that has to do with biocontrol of the marginal way. And I was thinking that the person that the committee is hoping would get hired, the seasonal employee that we talked about last time, might be overseen by whoever this subcommittee chair was on the coastal or the biocontrol committee.
Right.
The second committee I thought of was something called aesthetics. And there I was assuming that person might be a liaison with the DPW, because in overhearing your conversations and your discussions, it sounds like the goal, or one of the important aspects of the Marginal Way Committee, is to approve and be aware of the aesthetics on the marginal way so that it doesn't get cluttered. So there aren't any unnecessarily embellishments. And yet the DPW does stuff and the marginal way doesn't even know. So my thought was, if we had an aesthetics committee and that person saw their responsibility as being a liaison with the DPW, they could be aware and in communication all the time and be aware of what was happening. And then the committee could do some sort of an aesthetics review and at least give input as to changes that were being proposed or made. And then the only other, the third committee that I thought of was the outreach committee that could look at educational things and signage and anything. I know we talked about social media, possibly having a Facebook page or some other kind of social media outreach that would, and maybe some signage at the beginning or the end of the marginal way that talks about the history and gave people an appreciation of that. And then the very last thing, and this comes from my own trying to understand the connection between the Preservation Fund and the Marginal Way Committee, that it would be great to have somebody on the Marginal Way Committee that is the liaison to the Preservation Fund, so that if we were to write grants requesting money, then that one person or a group of people would oversee that. So those were the four major areas. And I think if you saw the document, there may be a lot of switching around of what the responsibilities would be. But the goal, again, was to organize it in a way so that new committee members and current committee members could say, okay, this is the area that I want to be involved in. I'd be willing to chair this subcommittee and maybe ask people who weren't even on the committee to be on a subcommittee. Other boards that I've been on, as long as you have a board member who is chairing a subcommittee, you could ask non-committee members to be on those subcommittees as volunteers or whatever. So I don't know the rules of the Marginal Way Committee, whether that's possible or not, but we could actually expand then and get a few more volunteers committed to working on some of these subcommittee projects with us, so that it's not all falling on just a few
the
people.
committee. Right, just on the committee.
Share of work on a lot of these things. So that was my thought.
Okay. And you do have, I mean, we already have a liaison. We have two liaisons to preservation in both Louisa and Paul now. So since both of them are on that committee, but I think that, you know, it was just, for me, it was a different way of looking at this. And I think we're still, it has always been difficult for me to figure out how to break down and separate some of the responsibilities. There was no way when I talked with Dave Riccio about the FEMA projects, we were so deep into it that there was no way for me to let that go and bring somebody else in who sort of have to start from scratch, since we had already worked with so many different FEMA representatives and gotten so deeply involved with the engineers and the projects and everything. So, I mean, it's just we have a lot more, I think, responsibilities than when we say we take care of the Marginal Way, and you think, well, you know, we walk it once in a while and take a look and clean up the cigarette butts or tell the DPW something. I mean, we have a broad range of projects that we're working on constantly. So let's take this up in more detail. I will send it out to the committee ahead of time. The other thing that we need to begin to plan for is when the committee has to meet with the select board, and there's no date for that yet. I'm actually hoping that we can wait until sometime early October in one of those select board meetings, because they're going through all the committees and the commissions in town. And what they want to know are, what are the committee's priorities? We would be talking to them and presenting maybe any of the changes and the new mission statement to them. We'd want to present the idea of this smoking issue to them as well. Hopefully by then we would have settled and be able to tell them about the agreement for the Seaside Garden. We're also dealing with and Elaine again has worked on this with all the boundary markers for the whole Marginal Way and all the access paths. Because what we're trying to do is to get that listed as an asset of the town, which it has never been listed as an asset, which is kind of extraordinary. There's been no value put on that property. So by Elaine doing all the research on all the deeds, the boundaries, we still have to go out once we know that there are fewer people, and go and find all the markers. But the whole impetus for this project that Elaine was assigned, and she's been a master of research on this, was so that the town could finally list it as an asset, an official asset. And the other thing that I'll bring up with no probably hope that we can get anything this year is the idea of a caretaker, at least a part-time person who could, in a sense, take the place of the DPW would have the knowledge of what we want done on the marginal way and how we want it done, and would have enough background and experience that we wouldn't have to be monitoring this person every minute. He would have the experience as a landscaper to know what needed to be done as a caretaker. But whether we're going to be able to have that as an added expense of personnel, that again is highly doubtful for another year going forward. I don't think they're going to take any new personnel on, but that is a goal. I absolutely think it's utterly necessary that somehow we get somebody that can do this work and not rely on just the town DPW for the maintenance, the vegetation maintenance.
Joan, are you saying that the workshop, the workshop on the 21st is to prepare for this presentation?
No, not particularly. I want that workshop for us to figure out really what our priorities are for this committee, divvy up some of the responsibilities, and finalize if we are going to have these changes within the standards or the resolutions. And then I guess just then we can begin to prepare what we want to present to the select board in the town, how we want to present ourselves, and what I think the main thing is what kind of priorities do we have going forward now.
So how does the idea of restructuring the committee fit with that? Is that something that we would be discussing at this workshop meeting on the 21st?
I think so, because we're trying to see how we can separate out some of the jobs to different people. And Gail, you had said something in a phone call to me a day or so ago about, that we had to figure out what you used the term, what did you say? Not our goals, but our vision or something like that. You're on mute too.
Sorry, they were mowing the lawn next door and I thought that it would be noisy. Yeah, I think I said something about figuring out what our goals and our vision as a committee, what we want to do.
I just want to be sure we're all going in together in the same direction and everybody agrees that that's the right direction. And that we can handle all of this work. So that's what I hope to accomplish. I'm happy to have any suggestions about what other topics you want to work on in the workshop on the 21st. I mean, what questions you have about what we're doing. I just think that we've been going along. I know this happens on a lot of groups. In my watercolor group, we've been doing the same thing for 40 years. We just keep doing the same thing and nobody is kind of thinking, is this what we're supposed to be doing? Are there other ways of looking at things? So I just thought, let's take a look at this and see if anybody has new ways of thinking about what we're responsible for or what we want to do. And I'm very receptive to all kinds of ideas. Just don't say, we don't want to do any of this anymore. Don't say that. So any other ideas that you have or impressions about anything else you want to add to today's meeting?
No, were there any public comments?
That's just what I was going to ask Reagan.
I don't think there's anybody on the meeting.
There was one attendee for a little while, but he's gone now, so I'm assuming none.
Okay.
And I just want to add that the amount that was taken out of the lighthouse was
Yes,
actually $575.18. So it was 18 cents off.
okay. All right, very good. Next time, try to remember those last pennies.
Well, I thought I had written it down there, but I took it out and put it somewhere else, so I had to find it.
All right, very good. Our next meeting is October the 5th for an official Marginal Way Committee meeting. So that's Monday, October the 5th. And again, we will meet on the 21st of September, 3 p.m. and kind of thrash out our responsibilities and priorities. And
It's the time for October 5th.
well, if there is no other conflicts, I guess we will go back to our 4 o'clock,
Okay.
if that's all right with everybody.
Okay,
All right.
good.
So if I can have a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Thank you, Louisa.
Second.
Second by Gail. All right, before someone's knocking on somebody's door.
See, that's my neighbor. He's having work done, which is why I muted.
Okay. All right. Thank you all very much. I appreciate everything. Very good.
All right, thanks,
for the
Joan.
contribution.